Packman Cards has responded to my video. He left a comment. I'm going to unpack that with you guys now because he also went ahead and posted it on Instagram with a bit more context that I think is worth discussing, right? I'm going to give him the time of day. I'm going to give him the chance to sort of get his response seen by my viewers because I think that is the right thing. But ultimately, we're going to unpack it and I'm going to talk through why I think it's a lot of excuses. I think it doesn't help him. And I think it highlights exactly some of the concerns that we talked about in yesterday's video. In case you haven't seen the video or know what I'm referring to, it relates to this video over here where I talk about everything that is wrong with sports card breaking, following some clips that were doing the rounds on Reddit from Packman Cards, Packman Breaks, where he was being really predatory with the language that he was using towards his customers in terms of gambling, FOMO, hype, and why was essentially everything wrong with the breaking industry. It perfectly epitomized what is wrong with breaking today because he was getting incredibly frustrated with the fact that breaks weren't selling. It was taking hours to sell them. And he was trying to sort of buy into this hype, buy into this FOMO, basically imply that these prices were good, they were sure things. He said the G word. He was too scared to say guaranteed. He was essentially trying to pressure people and feed on that addictive tendency to get people to buy into this overpriced crap. And it's one of those things, like I talked about in that video, that is pervasive with breaking at the moment. A lot of breakers do stuff like this. Every breaking room looks like this these days, or so it seems. And you've got people out there that are not looking after their customers. They're pushing crap towards them. They're basically pricing it to the moon. People are getting burned. They're getting skunked, and it's not sustainable, and it's not a good look for our, hobby. And one of the things I think is very important that I highlighted in this video that other people have talked about this since I recorded this and haven't really hit the nail on the head is the fact that these platforms are not doing enough to hold breakers accountable. The kind of language that Packman was using here is completely unacceptable. It's disgusting. It's scumbag behavior. It's incredibly predatory. He's trying to feed onto that little voice in the back of their head to try and get people to go ahead and spend crazy amounts of money. And it's something they need to stop because it's not sustainable. It's not good long term. And, we're going to unpack some of that today in terms of the response that he gave, because I think he's trying to make some excuses about this sort of stuff, and it's not a good look. And I thank you guys for watching this and sharing it yesterday, but I want your thoughts on this down in the comments below in terms of his specific response to me. Now, what you're seeing on screen in terms of the white background is the comment that he left on my video. Now, I've not responded to him just yet. It was my daughter's 4th birthday today, which is why you saw the balloons over my shoulder in the last video. I'm so far behind on comments because I've got a crap load of them from this video, so I'll give him a formal reply a little bit later on, but I thought I'd talk through it now. In terms of the text on the right, that's what he's added to the Instagram story when he went ahead and posted this. Now, what he says over here is, hey, I'm not going to make excuses. We're definitely doing too much here and let frustration get to us. So it's always pretty funny when people get caught like this. They say, hey, we're not going to make excuses, and then proceed to make half a dozen half-assed excuses. But, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll talk through it, and I'll share my thoughts throughout. He would like to offer clarification and an explanation, though, as is important to hear both sides. Completely agree, which is why I'm sharing this today. First, to answer the biggest question, which we were getting all night and led to a lot of the frustration, he doesn't get product for the EQL or allocation price from Tops, aside from a case or two here and there, like most hobby shops on most releases. So essentially what he's saying here, he's not making the huge profits that people were implying in the comments, where he was getting these things at a fantastic margin and was looking to 4, 5, 6, 7 times X his price in terms of what he purchased it for in terms of profit margins. But like I sort of said in my video yesterday, that's not, your customer's problem. And that's not an excuse for you to go ahead and pressure them to overpay on crap. And for you to go ahead and pay too much for a box of cards and then try and push it on people is terrible. Because if you've stuffed up, that's something that you need to eat as a business owner. You don't push that onto them. And like I said in my video yesterday, when you've got breakers reaching points where they've overstretched and they've spent too much, and then they try and then recoup the cost from their customers, that's not good. That's not sustainable long term. And a lot of breakers do that these days, and it's shit. Like, you effed up as a businessman. You purchased something because you thought you could milk this and make a shitload of money. You misread the situation. You misread the release, and now you're trying to push that bag onto somebody else. Like, in that instance, if you want to be a good businessman, you hold the bag. You say, hey, I stuffed up. I'm going to try and look after my guys and take a bit of a loss here. Or, better yet, still make a profit, but, not the arm and a leg profit you were trying to take from them, as we sort of saw in that video from yesterday. To run breaks like this, he says we have to pay full market/resale on large quantities, or we have nothing to run on release. Well, so be it. You don't overpay and try and push it on your consumers. Like, just suck it up, have nothing on release. He's been very transparent about when he's had good margins and was doing well, and when he didn't, and it was the opposite. Of course, the issue is the price for this set, and it's way too high, as we all realize quickly. again, don't push that onto your customers. That's a you problem, not a them problem. And the fact that that's your justification for trying to push what you did and push it in the way that you did is crap, in my opinion. For clarification, what we're saying that you played in terms of the clips I was playing that were doing the rounds on Reddit is in response to a few hours straight where we're negotiating prices and people would offer some money on a Derek Queen. And in the middle of that negotiation, you'd have people, when they're trying to close a deal, lots of trolls would come in making fake offers, etc. As someone experienced in this space, it's not something I should let get to me, but as you hear in the vid, it was ongoing for 2 to 3 hours until it got later in the night. Just quickly, when you're doing these live streams, I've done them before. Guess what, mate? You can ban people. If there's trolls in there, they're getting frustrating. Number one, just fucking ignore them. Number two, if they're that bad, just get rid of them. And clearly, because you were trying to sell this break for 2 to 3 hours, it wasn't just trolls, and clearly that wasn't the only frustration that you were getting. And if it was simply trolls for somebody as experienced as you are, that's not an excuse. Like that's a shit thing to sort of hear. Like that's not how things work, and that's purely a cop out, in my personal opinion. Now, what he says over here, I think is ridiculous. On a weeknight isn't a great day to run that, and that's why I'm saying we're in jeopardy of hitting a time where it gets too late to feel like what I sort of said in that video. He mentioned that they're in jeopardy of not selling it, and I sort of said, hey, that's a you problem, not your consumer problem. If you've stuffed up there, so be it. And my point still stands here. If weeknights are not a good night to run these kinds of breaks, that's a you problem again. Like, just because you're trying to run it at a time that's not typically successful, you don't push that bad luck, you don't push that bag back onto your customers. Like that's not their fault. And for you to sort of then pressure them and try and talk about things being risk-free and talk about things being a guarantee. Now, just quickly, I realized when editing, when he said the G word, he didn't want to say the word guarantee because he'd obviously get in trouble from whatnot, but he said the G word. I thought he meant gambling. He clearly meant guaranteed. I realized that when editing and put it on my screen. But to use that language, again, talks about or implies that you're trying to sort of maximize your profits. Things are not going well, but you want to try and push that bag back onto the customer. Like, that's not good. Suck it up. Be a good businessman and eat it for yourself. What he sort of says over here, an example of what was happening was we'd offer a player at, say, $3,000. They'd offer $2,000, the person in the chat. Of course, a lot of money, and we definitely went too big on this set. When we'd run it at $2,000, people would bid up to $3,000, and all that time, we would have just accepted $2,500 and saved all the time of arguing back and forth what is fair for that player, leading to the chat also reacting to the same way. Again, if this break was really priced well, it would have sold out quickly. You wouldn't have been sitting there for 3 hours, mate, at least in my humble opinion. Bottom line, we'll try and be better, and have in the past been pretty good about being fair and kind to people. He's done a lot of good things for charity in the past, stuff like that, but that doesn't condone sort of the behavior that we're sort of seeing here. It's good to sort of see him acknowledge it, but the excuses we're seeing here, I think, just is simply him trying to save face, in my opinion. Running a break that people didn't want at a late time of the night was a bad idea on my part. But there is demand for stuff like this. Sometimes we say prison football, where it was a much cleaner feel and better overall experience from our side, and we want to try and run big/cool breaks where there is demand. Agree. I think that's your job as a business. That's your prerogative. No one's going to hate you for trying to make money, but clearly things weren't working here. In the end, he sold this break and made good money, but clearly things weren't doing well. Now, what I'd expect to do in that instance, like I sort of alluded to, is, hey, you know what? Things are not going well, guys. We're going to shut down the stream. We're going to come back tomorrow. Like that would have been the easy thing to do, but fundamentally, why I think he didn't do that is because this was the release of Topps Midnight Basketball, and had things not sold, he would have gone then 24 hours of other breakers ripping the product. All the good hits might come. And then guess what? His product is now gone down in value because it's past release date, and he wants to capitalize while the hype is high, while the best cards are still chaseable. Because if he doesn't, he's going to have to make a loss on this product potentially, especially because he said over here he hasn't got it at the allocation price, which again, like I said earlier, is a you problem, not your consumer problem. And to sort of then still try and push it on people, I think is where the BS lies. Like, that's not good. Just suck it up. If you stuffed up by overpaying, you stuffed up by overpaying. Like, don't be too scared to wait until tomorrow to sell it out simply because you're going to make a loss. Like, clearly he's a business, he's there to make money, but that kind of stuff pisses me off because the hype was more important to try and cash in on it today than it was to sort of look after your consumers in that instance. The money came first. And obviously he's a business, like I just said, but there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And we've seen lots of people like Run Good Life handle breaks really, really well, look after his consumers, do things front of mind, and they're going to do the right thing by them. And maybe in this instance, they would have stepped away. Firstly, Run Good Life wouldn't have spoke to his viewers like this, and he wouldn't have pressured them like we saw here. We don't want to pressure people into spending money they don't have, but as always is the case with stuff like this, you went ahead and pressured them anyway because you needed to make that money. And there are some excuses here where he's simply saying, well, things were selling for more than the initial price point, so we were trying to save some time. And he goes on to say, but in this case, we had buyers who were close with us in price point. They'd pay, we'd finally agree, only for the price to end up going more anyways. And so I was too aggressive in just asking them to meet me in that middle number. I think I'd sell it at anyways now as opposed to 1 hour later. So he's simply saying, hey, we want to sell it for 3,000. They don't want to pay 3,000. So I was trying to pressure them to pay 3,000. We started at 2,000, end up selling it for 3,500. So he's saying he just wanted to get rid of that wasted time and just get things going, get things efficient. But, fundamentally that might be what happens here, but it was the way you were speaking to them. That's the problem. It's not where you ended up. That was the problem. It was sort of how you were handling it. Like talking to people like that and pressuring them and FOMO and addictive tendencies and all that kind of crap. I'm repeating myself now. Like that's the problem. And that's sort of where the line gets down. That's not an excuse. That's something you can try and justify. Just because you got to the right price point doesn't condone what you did. If I missed anything, please let me know, as this is something I take very seriously, and I agree with most of the things you bring up. To be honest, regarding the breaking space, the whole environment is in a bad place, but lots of companies are back into a tough spot, both price and product-wise, which doesn't fall on the consumers, but is why we see so many break pages acting crazy and desperate to try and make money back. Again, you're trying to make money back, you're freaking out, and you want to push that onto your consumers. You've stuffed up, you've overpaid, you've over-leveraged yourself. That is not your bloody customer's fault. And that's not justification here. And what he's simply saying here, he agrees with the things that I was talking about in terms of the issues with the breaking industry. But you know what? We need to make our money back and we need to sort of recover our costs. Again, don't buy into it then. If you can't afford it, don't buy into it. If you're over leveraging yourself, don't buy into it. Like this kind of mindset is just insane. Like that's not your excuse to go ahead and treat customers the way you did. I'm repeating myself again, but fundamentally, like that's just complete bullshit. Like that's a cop out. And just quickly, he said over here he wants to have a chat. I'll reach out to him. Like I said, it's my daughter's 4th birthday today, so I haven't had the chance to sort of read this until right now. I'll reach out to him. I'll try and get him on the channel. We'll talk about it. But this is a cop-out. This is crap, in my personal opinion. Wanted to address the midnight breaking news. While a lot of the clips are directed towards trolls who are making fake bids/offers, this comment I left on the vid mainly sums it up for me. Most importantly are the following points. Despite what everyone says, like he said, he's talking about the price points. He didn't get it at allocated price. He had to pay full retail. We don't want to pressure people into taking spots, but I'm trying to point out that the price we're counter offering at alleviates a lot of the risk and overpriced concerns they had, because we were accepting offers at more than half off most players. Some spots will always win and some will lose. We don't want to say it's guaranteed, but what I mean to say is here is a price where it's very close to your offer, where you get in at that price point and it is way safer. Like breaking, it's not safe. You're going to get skunked 99.9% of the time. That's also a big frustration of mine. Like that's not a good way to frame things. It's a shit thing to do. And, again, like you're trying to double down on the word guaranteed again. Like this is just crap. Breakers have the wrong mindset on what is going on here. The issue came when the counter, I'm not going to read the rest of these. You guys can read it for yourself. Other than regardless, apologies for the behavior and unpleasantries, as we let a lot of the comments/offer trolling that we're getting get to us. We'll be better and continue to run a page that has many no's built on respect and doing things the right way. You guys can read the rest of that because it's basically just summarizing what is said over here. But fundamentally, this is just crap. It's lazy. It's a cop-out. And, so many breakers are exactly like this. They're consumers who should be kept top of mind, should be kept front of mind, should be the most important thing to them as a business, are the last thing that they think about. It's most important for them to recover their costs. But guess what, guys? You can look after your customers and make good money. Like it's not mutually exclusive, right? You can do both things at the same time. You can do the right thing and still make money. Like I don't understand why this is sort of a reason for doing what you did. And he's saying fundamentally that I wasn't doing this and it came across that way. So I'm sorry, but I needed to make my money back. But we made the money anyway. Like that's not the reason, justification for doing what you did. And some people basically were focusing in on the profits as being the big issue, right? How much money he was making. The big issue, like I said in that intro, and like I said in yesterday's video, is the predatory tactics and way in which he was selling the product, right? The language that he was using, the terms around risk-free, sure thing, it's the right thing to do, saying guarantee without saying guarantee, like that's the problem. That language is a problem. That needs to be sorted out. That's what you need to focus in on here. And him trying to justify it because he overpaid is not an excuse. And he's simply saying it's not an excuse, but that looked like it was an excuse to me. So you guys let me know your thoughts below. I'll see you in the next one. Actually, just quickly, please check out today's video sponsor. It is Ship My Cards. If you use CardMan10 when you sign up, you get $10 credit to use towards shipping fees, grading fees, storage fees, whatever it is. Put a little thing on screen right now that explains what it is they do. Please go ahead and use them. They're a fantastic hobby business. And I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.